What is up, Corporate Misfits? Welcome to a Wednesday strategy session on the Corporate Misfit podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Darrington, founder of the Corporate Misfit Club and business strategist for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start, launch, and grow their business. I am so excited for this session today because we are chatting with Terrell Dinkins, who is the president and founder of OBN Wealth Advisors. This is an independent registered investment advisor firm that primarily focuses on wealth building strategies for women. As an investment advisor, Terrell creates financial roadmaps to help her clients navigate through their finances now and in the future. But before starting OBN Wealth Advisors, Terrell worked for 7.5 years with Peachtree Planning Corporation, which is a financial planning firm. She's also a wealth empowerment speaker and author. Her book, One Bucket at a Time, A Woman's Guide to Creating Wealth, has received countless reviews. She's also been seen in media outlets such as Black Enterprise, Rolling Out, Jezebel, Atlanta Business Journal, Atlanta Business Chronicle, and among many others. She has also traveled the international waters speaking to audiences on wealth building. When Terrell is not in business mode, she is spending time with her husband and 2 teens. So let's go ahead and dive in and learn more about how we can be smart with our finances within our business and personal lives.
You're listening to the Corporate Misfit podcast with Brittany Darrington, where female entrepreneurs can get powerful tips and advice on how to start, launch, and grow their business.
Terrell, I am so excited to have you on the Corporate Misfit podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brittany. I'm really excited, and hopefully by the end of this interview, we'll have some great answers for women, those women that are in business.
Absolutely. Can you tell us how you became a corporate misfit and also behind the scenes of OBN Wealth Advisors?
Well, so how I became a corporate misfit, I actually worked in pharmaceutical sales for 16 years. And probably towards the end of that 16 years, I actually wanted to start pursuing my passion, and that was helping women, helping people with money. So my company ended up doing a downsizing, and I got laid off, and I had the option, well, they call it a downsizing, and I had the option of interviewing inside the company to find a different position or take the severance package. And at that point, I was ready to move on and follow my passion. So I took the severance package, and that's how I ended up in as an entrepreneur. And that has been 10 years now. So I've been out on my own for 10 years. And after the first place I landed was I worked as a financial planner for a financial planning firm in Atlanta. I was there 7 years, and probably at the end of the 7th year, I really wanted to do more planning work. Whenever you work for a company, you always have to sell their products. And even if they say you're an entrepreneur, there's quotas for products. And at that point, I really wanted to do more planning work while I was writing plans. So I started looking for other companies that would allow me the freedom to write more planning and do more planning work. But I ran into another problem. I'm also an author of a book, and I had other companies trying to figure out, what am I going to do with this square peg in a round hole, because they wanted control over my book. So that ended up putting me in a quandary, because my old company didn't have any issues with my book. So I was definitely not going to go to another company, and they took away my freedom as an author. So at that point, I decided, you know what, it may be time for me to go out on my own. So that's how I ended up having my company, OBN Wealth Advisors.
Wow. Okay. So let's unpack that. You were in a position where you found yourself not being able to really pursue some of the things that you wanted to pursue outside of the company. And so you decided to take the leap and go into entrepreneurship full time based off of some of the situations and circumstances that left you from actually doing some of the stuff that you're absolutely passionate about. That's crazy.
Absolutely. So, when I work for the firm, people don't realize most people that work as an advisor, you're not an employee, you're a contractor. So even when I was with the financial planning firm, they didn't pay me a salary. I was a contractor. I ate what I killed. But they still had requirements. So leaving there again allowed me the freedom to do even more of what I was passionate about. And that is helping women and writing plans, helping them create their own financial roadmap. So that's what I do now. I do exactly what I wanted to do when I even first entered the industry.
Now, did you have any mentors or anyone to help guide you in this planning stage? Because I know a lot of times, sometimes when we are starting our own business or going into a completely different industry or a new position, sometimes we have mentors that guide us along the way. Did you have anyone to mentor you or advise you?
So here's what I will say. I truly believe that there's a plan for everything, and everything in your life happens for a reason. So the 7 years that I was with that financial planning firm was an excellent platform for me to learn the industry. So literally they were great in terms of learning. I was truly an entrepreneur there, and I learned so much. And the biggest issue and the scariest part about going out on your own in our industry is compliance. So I learned the ropes while being at that firm. And as far as mentors, I didn't necessarily have a specific mentor, but I had a lot of people who provided me teachable moments along the way. One of the things that stood out or that was shared with me was actually someone who was my client, and she gave me the best advice that I could probably provide to another female entrepreneur or any entrepreneur for that matter. And she said, Terrell, don't be afraid of your worth. And at that time, I had another business. I had an interior design business, and I went to her work. And this was before she became an actual client. And I had gone to her house, and she said, "Don't be afraid of how much your fee is. Don't be afraid of your worth." And she said, "How much do I owe you?" And I told her, and she pulled out her check, and that stood with me. And I think a lot of times with women, we forget our worth. And so every time I think about charging a fee to someone, I realize, what am I worth? What's my fee? And don't be afraid of my worth. Don't be afraid of my fee. And I think so many of us are afraid, especially women. We are so happy to have the freedom of being out on our own that sometimes we minimize our worth. So that was one piece of advice, this person who actually became a client of mine. And another person who he was also in the industry, he shared with me that I shouldn't be afraid of my niche. And in my case, my niche found me. I went into this industry open to help everyone, but the only people that were raising their hand were women saying, "Hey, I need your assistance." So when I went out on my own, I decided that I'm going to have a firm that specifically focused on wealth building strategies for women.
First of all, I absolutely love the advice that you received, because charging what you're worth is so important, especially in the world of entrepreneurship. I find, just like what you mentioned, so many women do not charge what they're worth. And that's why I'm so adamant on, like, let's scream this from the mountaintops to help women really identify what they're worth so that they can go out and ask for it and make sure that they stand for what it is that they want and not just accept anything and everything. So how did you kind of narrow down, how do I charge what I'm worth? Because that is something that so many women entrepreneurs really struggle with. So what were some of the things that you did to help you feel confident and comfortable about charging your prices and being able to make sure that you're able to, put food on your table within your firm? How did you go about that?
Well, first of all, you have to tell yourself that everyone's not going to be your client. And I had to accept that everyone will not be my client. So I have a book for people who may not be able to be my client. And then just kind of looking at the industry, the advantage of being out on your own is that you can adjust your prices but still provide value. So when I was working with a firm, my prices or my fees were higher, but that's because I had to split the fees with the firm. But now that I have my own firm, I can still provide value and adjust my fees so that, again, I can attract the type of clients that I want. And they'll stay with me. So it was just a matter of looking at the industry and making adjustments, but still looking at what was fair to me as well. As assets under management, I'm pretty much doing what the industry is doing. So, I have fee-based planning where I charge a fee, and I made adjustments there. But in terms of my assets under management, that's kind of where, I'm following with what the industry is doing there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, there are so many different roles that you are wearing basically in your life. You're a mother, you're an author, you're a wealth advisor for women who are looking to learn more about that. How do you juggle it all? How do you manage your time?
Well, my daughter would probably say I don't do a good job managing my time. But in all fairness, I really, whatever I'm working on, I like to stay in the moment. I work from home, and now what I will say is that I'm really good and disciplined when I work from home. I try to utilize that time wisely. I don't turn on the television. I actually enjoy working in a quiet space. So, and my family, they actually respect my time. And sometimes when I'm, in my office too long, my daughter will say, okay, mom, time is up, office hours are over. So really and truly, if people say, there's balance, there's no balance. I really feel like we need to work in the moment. And I think whatever I'm working on at that moment is important. Whether that means I'm working on my book or I'm writing a plan, that's important at that moment. And even if I'm out with my daughter and she and I are out at the movies, that's important at the moment. So, people who say you have to have balance, I really don't believe there's a such thing as balance. I think it's about moments and being present in the moment that you're in.
I completely agree. So now we're going to dig into my favorite topic, wealth management and understanding finances and whatnot. So why is it important for women to really understand financial advising and making sure that they understand their wealth management? Why is that important?
Well, Brittany, here's the thing. Women, we're born with a blessing and a curse. The blessing is we'll probably outlive our male counterparts. And the curse is we will probably outlive our male counterparts. So women will likely end up being on this earth alone. And that may be due to longevity, which again is that blessing and a curse. Going through a divorce, a woman ends up being alone. More women end up being alone going through divorce versus men. Men are likely to remarry. Remaining single, never getting married, or through widowhood. So because of that, I think it's so important that women think about their futures and think about the possibility that they may be alone in their future. So it's important that they start now in getting their financial house in order, because they may have to go it alone later on down the line. So that's another reason why I focus on women. And again, that whole wealth gap is so real. That is so real. The wealth gap and the wage gap is so real. I was looking at an article the other day, and if you look at working baby boomers, the 401k plans for those women are almost or more than half of that of our male counterparts. So for all of those reasons, I really am drawn to working and helping women and making sure that they understand why it's so important that they focus on their finances now for the future.
Absolutely. It is so important. And I didn't realize how important it is until I got out of my 9 to 5. I was like, whoa, I really need to make sure I'm planning properly for not only my now, but my future. And so it is a very important topic to really spread the word on, because women, we need to learn more about our finances and also understand our wealth management. Now, what are some differences that you see between men and women when it comes to finances?
Well, you know what? I will say that I will take my hat off to our women. Women are great savers. So we save money, but we're also safe. And I think we don't take on the risk that a man will take on. So we're safe. They tend to be a little bit more risky. And I think the advantage of taking on those risks are you have higher rewards. And I think that's why, again, you have all of those gaps when it comes to wealth building, because women were safe. We're good at saving money, but we don't take that money and add a little bit of risk to it, which helps us in the long run. So that's what I see, the big differences when it comes to money and men versus women.
Now, what are some common fears that you see women facing when it comes to financial wealth?
You know, this probably is this big fear of, I don't want to lose all my money. I really don't want to lose anything. And I think that huge fear is a detriment to us because we don't take the risk. And part of that could be, again, going back to that whole wage gap and wealth gap. Women don't want to lose the little or small amounts that they have because they've had to work so hard to get it. So that's where that fear comes from. I just don't want to lose anything. As a matter of fact, I have a client who has been with me from the very beginning. The first thing she said was, Terrell, don't lose all of my money. I don't want you to lose my money. She was so afraid that I would lose her money because that was her first time working with a professional advisor. And so that was the first thing she said to me. Now she's been with me, oh gosh, the entire 10 years. She was one of my first clients. And so she has been with me 10 years. And now I get emails from her, she'll have questions, but she says, oh, I trust you. But we've survived things for 10 years. So again, that has been the biggest fear that I see people, women particularly, because I work mainly with women, that fear of losing. I think it's the fear of losing because they've had to work so hard for what they have.
Absolutely. And speaking of all of the gaps that women are facing, whether we are looking for a raise at work or we're wanting more input within our finances at home or within our life, how can we gain that confidence so that we can have more conversations about money and not, stand back and not talk about it at all? So how can we gain that confidence?
So I was originally talked about, we wanting things now, but I say do this a lot. Looking in the mirror and telling yourself, I deserve that raise, or I deserve to have wealth. Basically, we are what we choose to be. If we are poor, or if we don't have money, it's because we choose to be that way. If we don't have that raise, it's because we choose to not have that raise, or we haven't done the things that will put us in a position to get the raise. So looking in the mirror, looking at the reflection in the mirror and telling yourself, I deserve it. I deserve this because I've put in the work to do it. So if you can't put in the work to do it, then it may be more difficult for you to face yourself in the mirror. But yeah, getting up that confidence, looking in the mirror and telling yourself, I've done X, Y, Z, so I deserve to get that raise, or I deserve to have more wealth.
I love that. And being able to do that, it just builds that confidence up, and it really makes you say, am I getting what I'm worth, or is there a huge gap? I know when I worked in the corporate world, there was a huge gap from what I was receiving based to one of my male counterparts. And it's crazy when you really address it, because if you don't, and you don't say anything, it will continue to stay that way. So being able to gain that confidence and stand up, whether it's increasing your pricing or making sure you're charging what you're worth within your business or asking for the raise, whatever it may be, having that confidence is so valuable, because if we don't start speaking up about it, nothing will change. So it requires us to gain that confidence and speak up.
Oh, you just said something there. We need to create a hashtag, speak up, speak out. You know.
Yes, speak up and speak out. Now, what are some basics that women should be having a grasp on when it comes to financial management?
First and foremost, we really need, this is just a basic. We need to know how to do a budget. We need to know how to do a budget. Second thing is a woman needs to really, and this is for any person, but particularly those women that are in business, we need to work on our credit. We need to know where we are and where we stand when it comes to our credit, because your credit has more purchasing power than cash alone. So knowing how to do a basic budget, knowing their purchasing power, knowing what their credit looks like. And also too, so those are the two basic budgets, basics that I think women should really think about. Knowing how, again, how to do a budget, knowing if they have any disposable income, and then focusing on their credit.
Amen to that. I love it. That is so true, because when I got into business, you don't realize, especially if depending on what type of entity you have, you don't realize that your credit is also going to be part of your business. So you need to be well aware of where you stand and also understanding how to create a budget, because if you don't know where your money's going, and then your cash flow's off or your P&L is not making sense. So you need to always be aware of where you stand and also that budgeting, because it's so important in the world of entrepreneurship and just your everyday life.
Absolutely. Let me add to that too, Brittany. Also, I think when women are entrepreneurs and they've started their business, they really need to be careful not to murky the waters and realize that even if I'm a solopreneur, my business is separate from my personal life. So they really need to make sure that they're separating their business from their personal life. Don't mix the money, don't murky the water. So that's another important thing that people should realize when they're going out and deciding to start a business.
Absolutely. Having that separate bank account. That's why I always say, if your business and your business and your personal account is mixed together, you're going to have a really difficult time. And also your accountants are not going to like you, because they are going to have a difficult time also going through everything. So it is so important to do that. Now, what about like someone who is looking to work with a wealth advisor, but they're not sure where to start and not sure if they even need one? What are some ways for them to identify, how to go about working with a wealth advisor and also getting started?
Well, people work with those that they like and they trust. So I would, I've actually seen that. I would use my social media platforms and let people know that I'm looking for someone, and ask for recommendations. And then they should interview the person. You should interview the person. And then if someone doesn't want to meet with you, then you already know that that's not the person for you. If they don't necessarily have to meet with you, if they don't want to take your phone call. So getting out there, letting people know that, hey, I'm looking for a financial advisor, financial planning, and then sitting down and interviewing that person, because you want to feel comfortable with the person that you're working with. And then you can also research it. So once you do that interview, if you go to the advisor's website, there's a section on that website that will allow you to check that person's background. I know if you go to my website, at the bottom of my website, there's a link to the SEC, and that SEC will take you, and you can read all about my company, read my background. Everything is there. So people need to be aware of that. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are out there that say that they are a financial coach or financial advisor, and you really don't know whether this person is qualified to be managing your money or talking to you about your money. So you can actually do research.
It's so true. There's so many experts out there nowadays that are like, I'm an expert in this, I'm expert in that. So it's really important to really do your research. Now, how can someone identify if they need someone to assist them in their financial planning? How would they know if they are in a place to, get started with a financial advisor? Some people think that they might have to have a certain amount of money or have a diverse portfolio within their wealth management. How do they know, hey, I need to start looking into working with a wealth advisor or someone to help me with my financial planning?
So here's the thing. I think when you get to a point where you can't do it on your own, then that's when you know I need some assistance. Most of the women that and then also too, going back to one of the reasons why I left was because I wanted to write plans. So you can work with financial planners that are out there who you don't necessarily have to have money to invest with them, but you may want them to help you create a financial roadmap. So I have clients that work with me. I don't necessarily manage their money. I manage a lot of money, but some of them come to me just because they need that financial roadmap. They've gotten to a point where I've done as much as I can on my own. I need a little bit of guidance. Actually, I had a prospect yesterday. She said, look, and I need to actually put my notes together. She said, I need a little bit of assistance with, should I pay off this credit card? Should I take all of my money out of my savings account and pay off the credit card? So she was just at a crossroads where she needed a little bit of guidance on what to do next. So if you get to that point, then yes, seek out help. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you.
I absolutely love it, Terrell. And I have absolutely loved our conversation today on our Corporate Misfit podcast. Can you share more about how we can stay connected with you? And also, can you tell us more about your book?
Yes. So here's my book, One Bucket at a Time, A Woman's Guide to Creating Wealth. You can find my book on my other website. I have two companies. My book is published through my other company, onebucketnation.com. So you'll be able to find the book there. You can also find the book at your local Barnes & Noble bookstores and on Amazon. And then also, if you're looking for me to speak, go to One Bucket Nation. But if you have any questions or you want to reach me from an advisor standpoint, go to my website, obnwealthadvisors.com, and you can follow OBN Wealth Advisors on Facebook and Twitter. And then back to One Bucket Nation, you can also find me at One Bucket Nation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You are so amazing. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I am so grateful to have you. And I can't wait for our listeners to learn more how they can get started in taking control of their finances. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Corporate Misfit podcast, we invite you to check out the Corporate Misfit Club. The Corporate Misfit Club is the essential resource for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start or grow a business they actually love. Whether you are a seasoned entrepreneur in your startup phase or simply thinking about taking the leap into entrepreneurship, we've got your back, girl. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive members-only discount perks, and unlimited tools. We also have a supportive community of women where our members share stories, experiences, their wins, and business tips. The Corporate Misfit Club is the perfect place to be to start, launch, or grow a business. So check it out at corporatemisfitclub.com.